Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. It's a Tuesday edition. Today. Of course, it's Tuesday. That means Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show will join us here in just a second. Second portion of the show, we got Dr. Pete Indelicato, famous ortho surgeon here at the University of Florida, also with the Miami Dolphins. We'll talk to him and hear some stories from Dr. Pete. First, let's go back to the Titan Tomorrow hotline, and we're joined by good old Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. Good morning, Buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Shannon. Where's my T-shirt? This is a good old Buddy Martin. You were going to get me
I'm working on it. They're out back printing it up right now.
Okay.
So, Buddy, before we get into what's going on, a lot of stuff has happened in the last couple of days. I like to talk golf with Buddy. A lot of my guests don't like to talk golf, but we had another tremendous golf tournament on the PGA Tour. Jon Rahm becomes the number one player in the world. But, man, what was amazing to me, and we talked about it because they played the same course back-to-back weeks, which you never see on the PGA Tour, and it's Jack's place up there at Muirfield Village. Boy, they made that golf course hard.
It was very hard. And by the way, the big news out of that was that Jack and Barbara, two friends of mine, tested positive for COVID. You know, that was scary when it happened. But the golf course really held up well to put two events on like that back-to-back. Shane, you may not know, I worked for a PGA Tour event for 17 years out in Colorado. And I can tell you how hard it is to get a golf course ready, but to have back-to-back tournaments on the same golf course, that superintendent did a fabulous job. And of course, you wouldn't expect anything less than Jack people to do that. But yeah, I mean, it was my wife's a big golf fan, but she's not happy when her guys are not in it. And she thinks if her guys are not in it, it's a lousy golf tournament. But man, there was some talent in that field. Those young guys are coming on strong. And, you know, I guess the same guys can't win every week, and you can't expect Mickelson to show up in the top 10. But the tournament, the tour has got some really good talent. Jon Rahm obviously is one of them, number one in the world, and he played terrific despite the fact. I never did hear. Did he get assessed that penalty or not?
He did, which, gosh, you know, think about the backlash you would be hearing right now that would have cost him the golf tournament. And it was crazy. You know, thank goodness he had a big enough lead that it didn't matter. But you know, that's the one thing I think about golf, and why I think it's the greatest sport out there, is because you have rules that you play by, buddy. You don't have a back judge making a interference call at a crucial part of a game, or you have a 75-yard touchdown run and the right guard was holding according to the umpire, or balls and strikes. You have rules you play by. Now, that was a ticky-tack rule because the human eye, I don't think, could see that, but the cameras caught it. But thank goodness it didn't cost him the golf tournament.
That would have been terrible because he played so much better than everybody else. It wasn't even close. And everybody else laid down. He was just pouring on. So Jon Rahm has got a temper, though, as we saw.
Yes, he does.
He's got to get a grip on that. That's the one flaw in his game. He seems like a really nice guy. I mean, you can see the interviews and his family and whatever. But boy, he explodes on that. And many others, by the way, over the years have had that, including Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones had a terrible temper. You know, one of the few guys that didn't was Nicklaus. Nicklaus was really good about that. And Palmer, those two guys were great. But, you know, and Tiger had a terrible temper, remember? So Jon Rahm's can win millions of dollars for a long time, but he's got to get a grip of that temper.
No doubt about it. But it was fun to watch it. It played kind of like a major championship. Buddy, last night, the Florida High School Athletic Association had about a 5-hour meeting. I watched a lot of it because I love high school football. I want kids to be able to fulfill their dreams. They just talked circles for 5 hours. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But they did vote that I don't think this – I'm still not really convinced of what's going on, but as of July 27th, teams can start practice if you're able to practice. Your thoughts on that?
I'm conflicted about it because, I mean, I know I had a couple of reports on my show last night of people who were covering that event, including Ainsley Lee, who covers high school football around here and is one of our star writers for Gator. And, you know, nobody seems to know what's going on. It does appear there's a split with the Miami and the South Florida schools. They seem to have, and they have a different situation. And in a way, it's a microcosm of what's going on right now in college football. I know you got Dr. Pete Indelicato on later. That's going to be a great program, and he'll have a lot of good things to say. But just like we're seeing in college football, Shane, we saw the SWAC drop out yesterday, and they're going to play spring ball. And in high school ball, it's even worse because two things. One, it's the Panhandle is not Miami. It's different, and it's a lot more dangerous in certain parts of the hotspots. How do you govern that when everybody's different? Just like governors are all different, they have different plans and whatever. It's really hard to figure out what's going on, and the reason they can't come up with the answers is they don't know. They don't know. And here's the other thing, Shane. Remember, high school, and you know this. You coach it. Your son played it. High school football doesn't have the health facilities that the colleges have. You're putting your kids at risk. In fact, tonight on my program, later on when you're on, I want to ask you about what that's like as a parent because you're going through that. But what do you do? I mean, you don't have one doctor for every player. I mean, it seems like that's what the NBA has. They have one doctor in. You got plenty of, but high school, they barely got a team position sometimes. So it's a tough call. I'm with you on that. My heart goes out to the programs. They're struggling right now in the public schools to keep these programs going, and it's going to be a hard one for the Florida High School Activity Association to figure out, and hopefully they'll get something resolved soon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As you mentioned, the SWAC, they've postponed their season. They're going to play spring football, which for the SWAC, I think it could be a pretty good idea, buddy. If the rest of college football plays the normal time, the SWAC may get a lot of TV time, maybe with a deal with ESPN, ESPN2 or someone.
Shane, I hate to say this. I'm not going to pat myself on the back and break my arm, okay? But I've been telling you this has got to change. And this is part of the great Buddy manifesto of 30 years ago when I said it is a bit of Darwinism there too. And say these small schools, small conferences have a place in college football. It's not going to be lining up on Saturday. Although I heard an interview yesterday with the commissioner of the Mountain West. And I thought about you because he said they had the most games they've ever had scheduled with the Pac-12. They had about, 12 games. Those were big money games for them. But, the SWAC has its place. And there is a place for First Division 2, as I call it. And spring would be a great place for them. And I think they'll draw good. I just think it's not going to work. The Southeastern Conference is like the 800-pound gorilla. They sleep wherever they want to. And I think they belong on Saturdays. They belong on the TV card every week, along with the Big Ten and maybe the ACC and 4 or 5 conferences. But clearly there's a split in college football. And we're going to see more and more schools doing the same thing. They're going to play in the spring, at least for a year.
Yeah, which I do agree. I think it's good that they get to play a different time than the big boys. The only problem with playing in the spring is now you have issues with the NFL draft. And we all know that, the NFL is not made up of all Power 5 football players. There's a lot that come from the SWAC and smaller tiered schools. So that could be an issue in the future. Buddy,
wait a second. Let me say, look, they can adjust, okay? You know this. They've had way too many preseason games. They've cut those back. The NFL has got it all its own way in that regard. Shorten your preseason, get your OTAs out of the way, whatever, and start the season late. The NFL can adapt to this.
No, I agree. I'm talking about the draft. So,
but the draft is the NFL. So,
yeah, but the draft is in April. So if you're in a SWAC player, you're playing January, February, March, April. You're playing during the draft, so it'd be difficult to evaluate those players.
Well, wait, you're just saying the draft has to be in April. I'm saying it doesn't.
No, I got you. Okay. Well, we'll have Roger Goodell call Buddy Martin.
He'll be calling me later today.
Yeah. So, Buddy, with the big boys, the Power 5 schools, how are you feeling that, since the last time I talked to you last Tuesday, have your thoughts changed any about we're going to kick this season off or what?
Within the hour, you mean? They change about every hour, Shane. The only thing I say is that the comments made by 2 people yesterday or over the weekend were a little bit more encouraging about what they see. It's all about the health, as we know. But Urban Meyer who I've talked to a lot recently, it seems like, he made a comment that he said there would be no way, probably not going to be a season. But he says, I'm back to yes. He said, we're going to play. We're going to play. I've got so much confidence the way these universities are handling this right now. Hopefully, Dr. Pete can speak to that. I love the fact that we went conference only because they could control the protocol and start, stop dates, etc. I'm optimistic now. He says, what really changed it for me are conference only games. Another one of the, by the way, the manifesto's points, play in the conference. And then Kirk Herbstreit. You remember when Herbstreit really got criticized because he said back in March he'd be shocked to see college football. Remember, he said, well, now he's come around. He's more optimistic. He said he thinks that people will do what they can as long as they can to save college football season, even if it means pushing week 1 all the way next spring in the last resort scenario. So I don't see the spring thing happening for the Power Fives, but it depends a lot on what happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It doesn't seem to be diminishing that much. And I just want to say, by the way, I go back a long way, Shane, Dr. Pete and I, especially me, and I can tell you that this country has made sacrifices for a long time. And, it's American to want to make a sacrifice for your country, isn't it? Wear the damn mask, okay? I mean, really. I mean, I think you got somewhere you got a photo there of a poster. Yeah, I'm not seeing that, but I mean, look at that. Look, remember the stories of Rosie the Riveter? The women who came into the production lines back in the day when they ration everything. You couldn't get sugar, you couldn't get gas, couldn't get rubber, anything whatsoever. This country played a tremendous sacrifice during the wars. And, I think it's important for us to look at this as our responsibility. And I can't wait to hear what Dr. Pete says, but why would you not want to wear a mask? And I know it's political. Nobody wants to talk about it. It starts an argument, gets to be red state, blue state. It's not, it's red, white, and blue, man. Wear the mask. It's been proven that it helps. If you can improve the situation for your fellow man and woman by 0.5%, wear the damn mask.
That's right. We're speaking with Buddy Martin. You can check him out weeknights on Facebook Live around 9 p.m. Eastern on the Buddy Martin Show. You can also check out his work at Gator Bait Media. We'll be having Dr. Pete Indelicato here shortly. But first, at Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Buddy, you excited? I know Major League Baseball kicks off here in a couple of days, but the NBA's down in Orlando. The bubble seems to be working in Orlando, huh?
Well, I don't know about the bubble, but the NBA is. By the way, don't they play Major League Baseball now? What have I been watching on TV?
That's been preseason.
Yeah, they're playing it. It looks weird, doesn't it?
It looks very
weird. Yeah, I tried to watch a couple of games. I watched the Yankees match, whatever, and so I look. It's live sports. I'll take it, right? I mean, that's what we all want to have. And yeah, in NBA, I don't. Do you totally understand the hubs? I mean, who's playing where and all that. I mean, I got to be re-educated. I mean, they're playing all in Orlando and all in Chicago. And what is that all about? Do you know?
Honestly, I thought every NBA team was in Orlando.
Oh, I didn't know. Maybe that's true. Could be right. I don't even know.
Maybe one of our loyal listeners can let me know on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think every NBA team is in Orlando.
Yeah.
They call it a bubble.
Yeah, I guess so. Perhaps. You might be right, Shane. The one thing I thought about last night, and let me know if you need to go, it's fine. I just want to say that in football, let's keep it to football for 1 second. The team that survives and the team that has the strongest mentality, the strongest physical, about that, and the team that emotionally and spiritually can survive is going to win the national championship. And I can't begin to think and what it's like for these players and coaches to think about all the stuff on their mind they're having to deal with and the pressure of football season. I mean, the mental part of this thing is going to be excruciating to deal with. It's going to take some tough hombres to break through that and play. And there you have it. You think of the teams that are the strongest and who they are, the coaches are the strongest. they're the ones that are going to win, and the mental side of this is going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, that's true. I do know that I think Dan Mullen and his staff have done a tremendous job keeping the kids focused on, the best that they possibly could during this time when they weren't all together. And it's still awkward when kids have different workout times. It's hard to believe that, kids are taking finals right now for Summer B. Supposed to start training camp officially August 7th, which I think everyone is scheduled to do that right now. But you're right. The teams that have been mentally tough and have stayed the course, I think will have a huge advantage this year. I think if we play football, who's going to be able to adjust? Because football is such an adrenaline sport, buddy. I think usually the only ones that are kind of calm and collective are your quarterbacks. Now, there's some that play with a fiery edge, like the Tebows and those guys, but you're probably going to be playing in an empty stadium with no fans. Yeah. It's almost going to be like at practice. So it's going to be who can really get their team motivated and ready to play without that adrenaline rush from 95,000 fans.
Well, you can speak to it as a player, how that's going to impact you. It certainly takes away a little bit of the weapons in some of these stadiums, like the Swamp. You're not going to have that screaming, yelling crowd down there. I don't know what's going to affect Alabama or not. I just don't know. And it's different, but look, I mean, it is what it is, and it's difficult as it is. I'll be so happy to see football played this year. I think Paul Feinbaum said yesterday, Ed Orgeron for president, because he came on strong to the vice president Pence saying, we got to have football. We got to have football down in Louisiana here. And it's kind of true, but we don't want to put anybody at risk. And that's the hard part, Shane, is how do you know? I mean, the first time someone dies from COVID, this is an athlete, this is going to be brutal. And it's going to happen. So as much as we want our football, we do have to be responsible. We do have to be Americans. We have to be patriotic about taking care of ourselves. Now, I'm not going to get on my soapbox again, but you know what I mean? It all depends upon, look, if it's true that the attorney, what do you call the chief doctor, whatever he is, the guy who has a chief medical, not CDC, but says wear a mask and, not attorney general. No, it's anyway, you get what I'm saying? They're saying wear the mask and this could be gone or be under control in 6 to 8 weeks. Is that too much to ask?
I don't think so. Hopefully we can get this thing under control. Our country needs sports. Our athletes need sports, and hopefully we can get back to some normalcy here soon. We had some Facebook Live comments here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. Chad says there's 22 teams in the Walt Disney bubble. So I guess, I haven't been following the NBA. They're playing all the games in Orlando, I believe. So I guess the teams that have no chance of making the playoffs didn't even show up.
I got you. That sounds right. Yeah. That sounds right. Yeah.
But anyway, buddy, what you got on the Buddy Martin show for this evening?
Well, we got a guy named Shane Matthews who'll be on tonight. And I want you to tell us tonight on the program, you'll be leading off, by the way, about the parent side of this. You've dealt with it. You and Luke have dealt with it great. But my gosh, it must be excruciatingly different for each parent. You were a coach, you know what it's like. And I'd like to talk to you about putting your kids at risk and how you feel about that and how you're dealing with it. Be one. Then our good friend from FloridaGators.com, Mr. Carter will be joining us tonight, as usual. He's very good. And then we'll wrap it up with a guy who gives us a national perspective, David Moulton. So that's our program tonight.
Well, we will be tuning in. That's Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. We appreciate you joining us, buddy. We're going to take our first time out here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Dr. Pete Indelicato. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Bob in trouble, gets ready to throw. Big hit.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guide, Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School, Doreen Weeby Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Radware, Style Cuts, Wrap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance, MB Listings, and Pomodoro Cafe. If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, Starbucks, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point. Now we're going to go back to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by a guy who's done a lot of celebrating, wearing the orange and blue, standing on the sidelines, Dr. Pete Indelicato. Dr. Pete, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, Shane. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, Dr. Pete. You've well, first of all, I want to know what Dr. Pete's been doing during this pandemic, other than working on your golf game.
Growing a vegetable garden, working on my golf game, taking my dog out for exercise, watching some Netflix, working out. That's it. Boring.
Yeah. We just got a Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. It says, Dr. Pete, it's Double D listening in. You have worked on me a few times, Dwayne Dixon.
Oh, yeah. He's such a great guy. I love that guy.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Pete, when I have all my celebrities / coaches, players on, I like to go back to their younger days. You grew up in New York. Did you always want to be a doctor?
I'd say about senior year in high school, I decided I want to be a physician. And about junior year in college, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And about my third year of medical school, I wanted to be a team physician. So that's a short summary of it.
Okay, well, for us guys that went to school for 5 years, and we only went to school for 5 years so we could play football for 5 years. How many years of school does it take to be an orthopedic surgeon and a team physician, all that these days?
Well, 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of orthopedic training, and 1 to 2 years of sports medicine.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of schoolwork.
It's a bit of a haul, but you got to have a passion for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So what made you want to get into the sports field? Did you grow up enjoying sports as a kid?
I played baseball as a kid, but Shane, you're looking at a diehard New York Giant fan. Mm-hmm. And when I was in New York in my orthopedic training, I got mentored by the team physician for the New York Giants. So when I was in my early 20s, I'd be going to Yankee Stadium and practices and things like that. and I realized sports medicine was an opportunity, and it was just a new subspecialty in orthopedics. But I recognize I can take care of, I can do orthopedics and take care of a team. And it was just a perfect marriage between the two.
So, what made you? I know I want to say after your med school, you're out in LA somewhere, and then the University of Florida came to you. Tell us how that all transpired.
Well, it's a long story, but Jack Youngblood was playing for the Rams, and part of my training was involved in taking care of the professional teams in Los Angeles. And Jack Youngblood says, "I hear they're looking for a team physician at the University of Florida," because the former team physician had moved to become chairman of orthopedics in Missouri. So some phone calls were made, and it turned out that the next day I could get on a plane, a Dodger plane that was going from LA to Vero Beach. I got on that. I rented a car, drove to Gainesville, got interviewed by a bunch of people, including Ray Graves, Doug Dickey, Chris Patrick, and some people at the health center. And 3 months later, I was moving here.
That's awesome. We got a couple of Facebook Live questions here for you, Dr. Pete, brought to you by Melvin Law, where you matter most. Chad wants to know, he's always wondered if Dr. Pete worked with or consulted on cases with Dr. James Andrews.
Sure. Yeah, Jim is a good friend of mine. He actually operated on Doug Johnson because Doug had a contract with the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Jim Andrews was a team physician for the Bucks. So Jimmy flew both Doug and myself out to Birmingham, because that's where he was at the time. And we both operated on Doug's shoulder, and but I talked to him a lot. He's as you know, an icon in sports medicine.
What made you decide to be like a knee specialist, where I think Dr. Andrews is more of a shoulder guy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But what made you get into the knee?
Well, most of my exposure when I actually was in the Navy in the early 70s as a orthopedic surgeon, and that a lot of knee injuries. So it sort of focused my attention on knee injuries. I didn't learn that much about knee injuries when I was in orthopedics. I trained at Bellevue Hospital, which is in Midtown Manhattan. And there's the saying going around, the only sports injuries we ever saw was when a jogger got hit with a taxi cab and broke his leg. So I decided I developed a big appetite for knees. And I'd say about a third of my practice is shoulders. So it wasn't just knees.
Okay. When you were here at Florida, you were also the team doctor for the Miami Dolphins. And a lot of people may know that, may not, but you would be on the sidelines at a Florida game, no matter where they played. And then did you just leave straight from wherever that was and fly to wherever the Dolphins were playing? How difficult was that on you for all the years you did that?
Yeah, that was about 9 years. It was challenging. Let me put it that way. Actually, on Friday night, I used to go to GHS games and hang out on the sidelines of that. So yeah, it was crazy. I wake up in a hotel and not really know where I was a lot of times because of the travel, not anything else.
Sure about that? No. So Dr. Pete, when you you worked on Dan Marino quite a bit. And obviously, we all know the great player, Hall of Famer he was, but he had a lot of knee injuries. And I've read things where Dan says you were very responsible for him playing as long as he did. Did you just clean up his knees pretty much after every season?
No, actually, we only operated on his knee 1 or 2 times. It was the Achilles tendon that sidelined him for half a season. And we did some minor surgery on his hip after his season was over. So So Dan took his lumps, but he's a great guy. It's just you don't want to be near him the day of the game. He could be a tiger, but after the game, he was just such a sweet guy.
So, as a doctor who worked on a lot of different type of knee injuries, some really bad ones, I had my knee scoped like 2 days after the Florida State game my junior year. But has there ever been one where you're like, man, I don't know if I can put this one back together?
Yeah, we've had a few like that. The one that comes to mind is Ed Chester, where he basically not only tore all the ligaments in his knee, but he damaged the nerve that works his foot up and down, and we got the knee back pretty good, but that nerve never came back, and he ended up requiring some reconstructive surgery in order to walk without a brace.
Yeah, was his injury similar to Mackenzie Milton, the quarterback that had the injury at UCF a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
that was one of the worst injuries I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that's why as soon as I heard the extent of the damage to that quarterback's knee, I knew that the likelihood of him coming back playing football is very small. You can fix the ligaments pretty well, but when the nerve gets damaged, that's sort of a kiss of death.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. July is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Dr. Peter Indelicato here on the Titan MR hotline. If you have a text for him, you can text us at 352-353-7465, or you can shoot us a Facebook Live comment brought to you by Meldon Law. Dr. Pete, so you were at the university for a long time, part of a lot of national championship teams in different sports. Which one stands out the most to you that was the most fun for Dr. Pete?
I would say the first one, 96 in football. Just like everything else, the first time you do something, it's really special. And beating Florida State made it even more special, especially since a couple of weeks before that, we didn't do so well in Tallahassee.
Right.
So that stands out. That's the celebration after the game. It was fun, but just the being there all week, building up the drama was and still is very special.
You worked while you were here at Florida. You worked with so many different head coaches from many different sports. Was there one that was hard to work with? And which one was like the easiest to get along with? I'm putting you on the spot.
I'd say the hardest to work with was Charlie Pell, not because he was difficult. It was that I was only here 2-3 years when he arrived, so I was still wet behind the ears, and maybe some of the insecurity that I had at that time played out, and he was tough. I mean, just on this topic, Shane. None of the coaches I've worked with in football, or actually any other sport, never really challenged me when I said an athlete could or could not practice. They all were very supportive of what's best for the athlete. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't get angry when they heard the bad news, but they never really challenged my authority in that aspect.
We got a Facebook Live question here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. David wants to know which sport has the most injuries: women's soccer, gymnastics, men's baseball, football.
Women's soccer.
Women's soccer?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, women's basketball. I think it's close. Women. Well, when you talk about injuries, I assume you mean knee injuries, not pulled hamstrings and things.
Yeah, he just said, okay, let's just use knee injuries. You saying
knee injuries? Yeah. Women are maybe 8 to 10 times more likely to mess up their ACL than men are, given the same sports like soccer and basketball.
Oh, Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. We got a text here from Jim on the Titan MR text line. Jim wants to know, can you name all the football coaches that you have worked with?
Yeah, I'm not that senile. Doug Dickey, Charlie Pell, Galen Hall. Now, there was an interim coach at the end of Galen's season that came in, but then there was Coach Spurrier, Coach Zook, Urban Meyer, and then I sort of stepped down and became the emeritus team physician. So, yeah, Will Muschamp, McElwain, and now Coach Mullen.
And then Don Shula, obviously.
And Don Shula, yeah.
Yeah. How was it to work well with Don Shula?
He was tough. You know, he was like a Charlie Pell. He was, old school. And, he wanted to win every game. He was tough. He was tough. He was a little bit like Dan Marino. When it came to X's and O's and who could play, who couldn't play, he was tough. But when you got him socially, he was a real gentleman.
Got another text here on the Titan MR text line from Larry. Larry wants to know, how did Emmett not ever get injured?
How did he not have a knee injury?
Well, I guess just, all the carries, he never, even if you go to his professional career, he never was really injured.
No, he did have, actually, I have a picture of me walking off the field with him holding his wrist. I think he did have a reasonably serious wrist injury when he was in Florida. How did he avoid the injury? He's just, a lot of it is luck, maybe. And the way he ran, his feet were always moving. And as far as knee injuries are concerned, the more your foot's on the ground, the more likely you are to sustain a knee injury. That's why offensive linemen are so much at risk, because they're planted.
Yeah. Dr. Pete, talk about, when I was in school, you had this little small crammed in offices over there in Shands, and then they built this beautiful facility just for orthopedics. And just talk about, I think you worked there a little while, not very long, but how excited were you to get that building completed, and what has it done for the athletes at the University of Florida?
Yeah, you're talking about the Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Center right there on Hull Road. That opened in 2004, so I actually worked there about 7 years. It had and is a real state-of-the-art orthopedic health center. It's got all the latest imaging techniques. The best doctors in Gainesville are there. It's got a motion analysis lab. Actually, Tim Tebow, we took advantage of the motion analysis lab to try and break down his throwing motion and see if there was a way we can, with high-speed cameras and digital printouts, how we can improve his throwing motion. So it really is a state-of-the-art facility, and very, very proud to and fortunate to have an opportunity to work there.
Yeah. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're speaking with Dr. Peter Indelicato on the Titan MR hotline. We just got a text here from Bill. Bill wants to know how many championship rings do you have?
National championship, 5.
5?
Yeah, got a lot of conference championships, but
that's right, because you weren't. I guess you were retired when baseball won it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That went to Kevin Farmer, one of my proteges that is doing a great job with baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. P, you've worked on so many athletes here at the University of Florida, and I know the athletes have tremendous amount of respect for you, because we all had a good relationship with you, but you have to have some of your favorite guys that you had to see after practice every day, had great stories that you could tell some of our listeners? I know you.
Yeah, you're one of them. You're one of the great guys that I keep up with. Scott Brantley, I keep up with. Ricky Natil, I see every once in a while. It's one of the great benefits of doing what I do is that athletes still reach out to you even when they have orthopedic problems. I get texts and emails and phone calls from former athletes about them or their kids.
Yes, as in my situation, or my kid.
Your situation, right?
Anytime he was injured, I'd be calling Dr. Pete. Dr. Pete's like, I'm not working anymore. You got to call the guys over there at the office.
And let me say one of the things that I really, really enjoy is on game day. A lot of these athletes are on the sidelines or tailgating, and I just love catching up with them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Dr. Pete, you have to have an Eric Rett story. I just remember Eric Rett being in your office pretty much nonstop after practice every day.
Yeah, he was something. Well, one of them was we were playing Georgia in Jacksonville, and the game was played in very inclement weather. It was raining, so coach wasn't throwing the ball around. He must have carried the ball 30, 35 times. And he sits down and he calls me over to the bench. He said, Doc, come over here. And I go in with his, what is it? What is it, Eric? He says, I can't catch my breath. I said, well, you carried the ball 35 times. No wonder you're out of breath. And he said, no. He said, the wind is blowing the oxygen out of the stadium.
I remember that story. That's a typical Eric Rett story, man.
I love that guy. He's another one that keeps in touch.
Yes, he was definitely a good one, no doubt about it.
He was a tough runner. Let me tell you, he was a tough runner.
Oh, so tough. Doc, I know you wanted me to ask you about stopsportsinjuries.org. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Okay, it's a free website that you can that anybody can go to, and it's got a significant treasure chest of sports tips for parents. It's aimed at parents and coaches, high school coaches, football coaches. I encourage all your listeners just to go on it. It's sponsored by the American Orthopedic Society of Sports Medicine, which is an organization of over 3,000 team physicians, and they put out these free information about injuries, prevention, recognition. They've got like 36 different sports, 35 to 38 different tips for the sports. It's worthwhile. So thank you for mentioning that, Shane.
Yeah. Well, I got you on here because I know we got a lot of people that watch our show that have probably young kids or whatever. I'm a big believer in playing multiple sports. How many times have you seen, and we're going to talk baseball, young baseball pitchers just wear and tear, overthrowing at such a young age? And so many people want to be sports specific. My kid is going to play in the major leagues, but I promise you, if they play multiple sports, they'll have a better chance of playing at the next level because it's going to make them a better athlete and it's going to keep them healthier.
Yeah, you're spot on Shane. Yeah, diversionary and variability in sports is critically important to develop the individual. You talk about baseball. It's a little better now than it was 8-10 years ago, where they just threw your arm out, and your elbow more than your shoulder was just placed at risk because even with pitch counts, their kids are thrown in their backyard with their parents. They're picking up extra sandlot games, and that elbow in a 10, 12, 13-year-old kid is extremely vulnerable to damage. Now, fortunately, they have the Tommy John procedure to correct it in a lot of situations. Not 100% of the time, but it's a pretty successful procedure. In fact, Jimmy Andrews was one of the pioneers of that procedure. He tells me that sometimes parents bring their kids to see him without an elbow problem, and they want Jimmy to do the operation on them to keep them from having an elbow problem. That's how off track some of these parents are.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this because my son was playing high school baseball, just in between innings, me and some of the dads were talking about kids having arm problems. And they asked me, they go, hey, did you ever have any arm problems? Or did Luke ever have any arm problems? And I don't really know a whole lot of quarterbacks. And why is it quarterbacks don't really have the arm problems that pitchers have? Is it just a different throwing motion, the different torque they use? I know some quarterbacks have some rotator issues every now and then, but never Tommy John or anything of that nature.
Well, number one, it's frequency, and it's the mechanism of delivery is different throwing a baseball than a football, and the football is thrown. Basically, it leaves your hand with your hand. The ball leaves your hand with your hand pretty far above your shoulder, closer to your head, whereas a baseball, your arm isn't that high, and that puts a whole lot more stress on the inside of your elbow. So it's basically throwing mechanics and number of throws that makes the difference between baseball and football.
We got a text here on the Titan Tomorrow hotline, and it comes from Steve. Steve wants to know, he says, you've spoken at many, many seminars across the country and around the world. Is there one that you had the most fun? How many of these kinds of speaking engagements do you normally do?
A year, maybe 18 to 20. A few overseas in Asia and Southeast Asia, Europe, South America. The annual American Orthopedic Society of Sports Medicine meeting is my favorite because you're just with the same bunch of guys that you've known for the last 30 or 40 years. It's a great meeting. A lot of good science and information gets presented, and they're usually held in nice facilities. So,
Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. We're speaking with Dr. Peter Indelicato. Dr. Pete, you were around Coach Spurrier a lot. I know you play a lot of golf with him now. People love hearing Coach Spurrier's stories. I know you got a couple that you can tell on air that are safe. You got a good one for us?
Well, yeah. I mean, just last week, I'm just learning picking up the game of golf, and Shane, he loves to get in your head before you putt the ball.
Got to tune him out, Doc. Tune him out.
I know. I'm trying. When I started playing with him a while back, I said, Coach, please feel free to give me some tips because I'm just learning how to play the game. And after about the third or fourth hole, I said, Doc, I got a tip for you. I said, what's that, Coach? He said, take 2 weeks off and then quit.
Yeah, no doubt. That's him. We got another Facebook Live question here for you from Jeff, brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. Jeff wants to know, do you ever testify as an expert in legal cases?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not now, not since I retired, but I would get involved once or twice a year as an expert witness. And I would say equally divided between the plaintiff and the defendant in cases like that. So, yeah, I think that's part of my obligation as a physician is to participate in situations like that and give honest opinion about what you believe is right and not right.
Last thing for you, Doc. You've been a part of the athletic program at the University of Florida for a long, long time, and you still are. Probably, you're on the sidelines, your basketball games and things of that nature. What does the University of Florida going to mean to Dr. Pete when it's all said and done?
Oh, I love this university, Shane. It's allowed me to fulfill a lot of dreams. And, growing up in New York and University of Florida or even college football was really not that big a thing. But I am so grateful to have the opportunity to practice here. And the coaches, Jeremy Foley, athletic director, Chris Patrick, the head trainer. I've been blessed. I really have, and it's been a wonderful career.
No doubt about it. Well, I don't know if we're ever going to get rid of you or Chris Patrick. You guys are going to be here forever. two Gator greats, no doubt about it. I'm trying to get him on the show, but he keeps putting me off. I'm definitely going to get him on. But Dr. Pete, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Stay safe during this time, my man. Crazy times. Do you think we're going to play college football this year? That's my last question for you.
Yeah, I think there's a reasonably good chance. They're being very smart by delaying the decision as long as they can, so that they have the most up-to-date data to base that decision on. Because things are always in a state of flux. So I hope they do. I hope they have football in one form or another. It's just such an important part of our culture.
No doubt about it. Well, Dr. Pete, stay safe. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
Thanks, Shane.
That's Dr. Pete Indelicato. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. We're going to take our final time out of the program. We'll be right back. Thanks, Dr. Pete. Appreciate your time.
Time out! Hey, time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Bob in trouble, gets ready to throw. Big hit.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guide, Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School, Doreen Weeby Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Radware, Style Cuts, Wrap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance, MB Listings, and Pomodoro Cafe. If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support this show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security Systems Studios on this Tuesday morning. This Day in Sports is brought to you by Area Rug Masters. Don't fight your area rugs. Take them to Area Rug Masters. With their convenient curbside services, you will never need to go anywhere else. Call 352-448-5999. This Day in Sports in 2013 at the British Open. Unfortunately, we didn't see the British Open last week or this week. In Muirfield, Phil Mickelson wins his fifth major by 3 strokes over the Swede Henrik Stenson. That's This Day in Sports, brought to you by Area Rug Masters. Folks, make sure you go out and tell your friends to follow us on Facebook Live. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We got a good one for you. We're going to be joined by Zach Blobner from down in Tampa Bay, talking Tampa Bay Bucks. See what's going on with Tom Brady and his crew down there. And then we're going to be joined by Rex Grossman, good old number 8 here, quarterback, one of the best we've ever had. That's going to be a wrap, folks. It's brought to you by Wrap Spot. Make sure you stay safe out there, wear your mask. We'll see you soon. Take care.